She sat so close I could hear her breathing, and it messed with my sense of proportion, like the room had quietly rearranged itself around us without asking my permission. It was supposed to be a nothing afternoon. Just another slow hour at the shop while the rain decided whether it meant business. I was behind the counter pretending to organize invoices I already knew by heart, when she took the stool on the customer's side instead of standing like everyone else. That alone felt like a choice. The vinyl squeaked when she leaned in, forearms resting on the counter, sleeves rolled just enough to show she wasn't hiding from anything. "Take your time," she said, before I'd even apologized for the wait. Her voice had weight to it. Calm, practiced, like she'd learned how to keep it steady in rooms where other people fidgeted. I noticed things I didn't mean to. The faint crease between her eyebrows that only appeared when she was listening. The way she smelled like clean laundry and something sharper. Maybe rain, maybe her. The silver threaded through her dark hair didn't try to disguise itself. It felt intentional, confident. I told her what was wrong with her car. Or tried to. I heard myself talking too much, filling space that didn't need filling. She nodded, not interrupting, eyes steady on my face like she was cataloging me for later. Every now and then her knee brushed the counter's edge, close enough that I became very aware of where my own legs were. At some point she laughed. Not loud. Just a quick release of air, surprised, like I'd accidentally said something honest. "Sorry," I said automatically. "For what?" she asked. I didn't have an answer that made sense. So I shrugged. She watched the movement like it mattered. There was a pause then. Not an awkward one. Worse. The kind that feels full. The rain outside picked up, tapping the windows hard enough to demand attention, but neither of us looked. I could hear her breathing clearly now. Slow. Even. It made me aware of my own, suddenly too loud, too fast. "You're young," she said, not unkindly. I felt it land where she aimed it. "I get that a lot." "I didn't mean it like that," she said, tilting her head. "Just observant." I smiled because it felt safer than asking what she meant. She reached for her bag, fingers brushing mine by accident, or maybe not. The contact was brief, almost nothing, but my hand remembered it immediately, like it had been waiting for the excuse. She pulled out her phone, frowned at the screen. "My ride's running late." "You can wait here," I said. "Too fast." "I mean, obviously." I know," she said gently, saving me from finishing. She stayed. Sat there while I pretended to work. Asked me where I grew up. What I wanted to do eventually. Like she already knew eventually wasn't now. When I asked her the same, she smiled in a way that didn't give anything away. "That's complicated," she said. Another pause. Longer this time. She didn't look away. When her phone finally buzzed, she glanced at it, then back at me. For a second, just a second, I thought she might ignore it. She stood, smoothing her jacket, reclaiming the space between us. The room felt colder immediately, like something essential had stepped out. "Thanks," she said, "for not rushing." I watched her walk to the door. She stopped with her hand on the handle, turned back like she'd forgotten something. She didn't say anything, just looked at me. That look followed me home, sat beside me in the quiet, close enough that, hours later, I could still hear her breathing. The second time didn't feel accidental. She came back 3 days later, near closing, when the shop lights were already dimmed and the radio had given up on music and settled into talk. I was under a hood when I heard her voice say my name. Not loud, just enough to test whether it still belonged to her. I wiped my hands before turning around. She stood there holding a paper cup of coffee like it was doing more for her than caffeine ever could. Her jacket was open this time. Same calm posture, but something in her shoulders looked heavier, like she'd carried the day without putting it down once. "I hope this isn't weird," she said. "They said you were the one who explained things without talking down." I smiled. She didn't. I pulled up her file, asked routine questions. She answered them carefully, like each one passed through a filter before reaching me. I noticed how her fingers worried the cardboard sleeve around the cup, creasing it slowly, methodically. Her nails were short, practical. One knuckle was red, like she'd scraped it and forgotten to care. "You okay?" I asked, nodding at her hand. She glanced down, surprised. "Oh, yeah, just clumsy." She didn't look convinced. Neither was I. We moved to the small desk in the corner, the one nobody liked because it faced the wall and trapped you in. She sat. I stayed standing at first, then felt stupid and took the chair beside her. Too close again. Close enough that the faint lines at the corners of her eyes showed when she smiled, which she did less this time. I explained timelines. Costs. She nodded, but her attention drifted. When I stopped talking, she didn't notice right away. Sorry, she said eventually. Long week. Yeah. She hesitated. Just a beat too long. Yeah. Her laugh came after that, soft and misplaced, like it had missed its cue. I noticed how tired she looked then, not in a dramatic way. Just the kind that settles in quietly. The kind you don't announce. You don't have to stay, I said. I can email the rest. I know, she said. It's quieter here. That felt like something she hadn't meant to say out loud. She straightened, as if posture could rewind words. We sat in it. The hum of the lights. The distant clang of someone locking up. I became aware of how still she was holding herself, like she'd learned not to take up space unless invited. Her phone buzzed. She didn't reach for it. Everything okay? I asked. She nodded again, then shook her head. It will be. I watched her hands then. How they rested flat on her knees, palms down, like anchors. How one thumb traced the seam of her jeans, over and over. I should go, she said, not moving. Yeah, I said just as uselessly. When she finally stood, she lingered, adjusted her bag, looked at me like she was measuring something she didn't want to name. Thank you, she said. Not for the car. I watched her walk away slower than necessary. That night, I kept thinking about the way she stayed seated even when she said she should leave, and how part of me had wanted to ask her to stay anyway. The third time stretched longer than either of us planned. It was past closing. The rain had turned steady, not dramatic, just persistent enough to erase excuses. She was in the back office with me because her paperwork hadn't gone through and the system was being stubborn, and because neither of us had said the obvious thing, that she could have come back tomorrow. The office light hummed overhead. One of the bulbs flickered like it was thinking about quitting. She stood by the desk, coat still on, hands tucked into her sleeves. I noticed how she kept shifting her weight, heel to toe, like she was bracing for something. I didn't mean to keep you, she said. You didn't, I said. Then, quieter, I don't mind. She glanced at me at that. Just a quick look. File still open on the screen, cursor blinking like it wanted input we weren't giving it. Outside, thunder rolled. Not close, but present. The kind that makes walls feel thinner. Her phone buzzed on the desk. She stared at it like it might move on its own if ignored. It buzzed again. I should take that, she said. She didn't. When it stopped, she exhaled through her nose, something tight loosening just a fraction. She rubbed her temple with 2 fingers. I saw how tired she really was then, the effort it took to keep her face neutral. You don't have to stay polite, I said. I won't break. She laughed at that, surprised. Then the laugh faded, and she looked down at the floor between us. That's not what I'm worried about, she said. I waited. Didn't fill the space this time. The rain got louder, drumming the roof like impatience. She took a step closer to the desk. Then another. Not toward me exactly, just into the shared radius. I became very aware of the warmth coming off her coat, the faint dampness in the air clinging to her hair. Sometimes, she said slowly, it's easier to be somewhere you don't belong, because there are rules. I swallowed. And rules are safer. She nodded. Didn't look at me. Predictable. Her phone buzzed again. A name flashed on the screen. I didn't mean to see it, but I did. She saw me see it. Her shoulders stiffened. It's nothing. I didn't ask. That felt like a line I wasn't allowed to step over, even if everything else was blurring. The power flickered. Just for a second. The light dimmed, came back. When it did, she was closer than before. Close enough that if I leaned forward, I wouldn't have to reach. She smelled like rain again. And coffee. And something warm underneath. Hey, I said, because silence suddenly felt dangerous. She finally looked at me then. Really looked. Her eyes searched my face like she was trying to find the version of me that wouldn't complicate things. I should go, she said. Yeah, I said. Again. Neither of us moved. Her hand lifted, not toward me exactly. Just up. Hovering, uncertain, like it had forgotten its purpose. For half a second, I thought she might touch my arm. For half a second, I almost let myself lean into it. The fourth time, there was no rain to hide behind. It was quiet in a way that felt intentional, like the world had stepped back to see what we do without excuses. She came in early, too early for customers, too early for casual conversation, and stood near the doorway instead of sitting. That alone told me something had shifted. "You busy?" she asked. I shook my head. "Not really." She nodded, like she'd rehearsed that answer. Then she walked past me, slower than usual, and sat in the chair by the wall, the one farthest from the counter. Distance, on purpose. We didn't talk right away. I pretended to check emails. She pretended to read a flyer that had been taped there for months. The hum of the lights filled the gaps. My chest felt tight, like I'd been holding my breath since she walked in and forgot how to let it go. "I keep thinking about this place," she said suddenly. I turned. "The shop." She shrugged. "Us being in the same room. How normal it looks from the outside." I waited. I'd learned that interrupting her was a mistake. She folded her hands in her lap, unfolded them, one foot tucked under the chair, then retreated. Small, restless movements that didn't match the calm she usually carried like armor. "I don't know what I'm doing," she said. Not to me exactly. More like to the space between us. That landed harder than anything else had so far. "You're not doing anything wrong," I said instinctively. She looked up then, held my gaze. That's the problem. The silence after that was heavy. Not awkward. Heavy. Like something had been set down in the middle of the room, and neither of us wanted to be the one to move it. "I notice things," she went on, quieter now. "The way you stop talking when I don't answer right away. The way you wait. I'm not used to that." I swallowed. "I don't mind waiting." "I know," she said. Her voice cracked. "Not much, just enough to be real. And I don't know what to do with that." She stood, paced once, then stopped with her back to me. Her shoulders rose and fell, slow, controlled. When she turned back around, her eyes were glassy but dry. "This can't become something," she said carefully, "because I wouldn't know how to carry it. And I wouldn't know how to put it down." I wanted to say 100 things. That I wasn't asking for anything. That I already felt it becoming something whether we named it or not. That her sitting in the wrong chair had somehow undone me. Instead, I said, "Okay." The word tasted like a lie. She nodded, grateful for the permission to step back into safety. She reached for her bag, then hesitated, hand resting on the strap like she might forget it if she let go. "I'm sorry," she said. "If I made this confusing." I met her eyes. "Let myself be honest just once." "It already was," I said. She closed her eyes at that. Just for a second. When she opened them, she looked older somehow. Tired in a deeper way. "I don't trust myself around you," she said softly. "And that scares me more than wanting anything ever could." She walked out before I could answer. The door closed gently behind her, and for the first time, the quiet didn't feel neutral at all. It felt like something had been taken and left open anyway. I thought I'd scared her off. A week went by, then another. Her name stopped appearing on the schedule. I told myself it was normal. People fix things, move on. Still, every time the door opened, some stupid part of me looked up before I could stop it. Then, late one afternoon, the shop phone rang. I almost didn't recognize her voice. It sounded thinner. Careful. "Hi," she said. "It's me. I left something there." "Yeah," I said. Too fast. "Yeah, of course." She came in just before closing. Different this time. No small talk. No coffee cup. She held her phone in her hand like it weighed something. "I won't stay long," she said. "You don't have to rush," I said, immediately hating myself for it. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I do." We stood by the counter, not close, not far. She unlocked her phone and held it out to me. "I don't usually show this to anyone," she said. "But you should understand why I can't, why I stopped." On the screen was a photo. A man and a woman sitting on the steps of what looked like an old apartment building. The woman was younger, her, but not quite. The man beside her had his arms slung around her shoulders, easy, familiar. He was smiling at the camera like he knew the future wasn't going to hurt him. "That was Daniel," she said. "My husband." The word landed quietly. Not dramatic. Final. "He died," she went on, before I could ask. 5 years ago. Sudden. No warning. One morning, he was late for work. The next, she stopped. Took a breath. Her fingers tightened around the phone. He was younger than me, she said. Everyone thought that meant we had time. I didn't know where to put my hands. I settled for stillness. You look like him, she said then, almost apologetic. Not exactly. Just enough. It's the way you listen. The way you don't rush people. Something in my chest shifted. Not jealousy. Not relief. Just understanding, heavy and unwelcome. I didn't come back because I was confused, she said. I came back because I was scared of what it meant that you felt familiar. She lowered the phone. Our eyes met. I'm not looking for a replacement, she added quickly. I know that's not fair. I know, I said. And I did. The shop felt smaller then, like it was holding its breath with us. She slipped the phone back into her bag. Her hand shook a little. She noticed. Let it fall still at her side. I didn't want anything, she said. But being around you made me remember what it felt like before everything broke. I didn't reach for her. That felt important. Instead, I said, thank you for telling me. She nodded, eyes shining now. Not crying. Just close. When she turned to leave, she paused at the door. I don't know what this changes, she said quietly. Neither did I. But after she left, I realized something had shifted anyway. Not toward her, but toward the past she was still carrying, and how carefully I'd have to step if I stayed anywhere near it. It didn't collapse the way movies promise. No sudden confession. No crossing of lines with fireworks attached. It happened on an ordinary morning, weeks later, when she showed up without an excuse. No paperwork. No forgotten item. Just her, standing in the doorway like she'd walked there on instinct and only realized it at the last second. I was nearby, she said. I nodded. Didn't ask where. Didn't ask why now. She looked different. Lighter, maybe. Or just less armored. Her hair was pulled back loosely, a few strands already escaping. She looked tired in a way that felt honest instead of defended. I made coffee in the back. Not because she asked, because it was something to do with my hands. When I brought it out, she was sitting on the stool again. The close one. Still my bad habit, she said, glancing at the seat. I smiled. I won't tell. We drank in silence. The shop woke up slowly around us. Doors opening, tools clinking, the day stretching its limbs. She watched it all like she was deciding whether to step back into it. I don't think I'm broken, she said finally. I didn't respond right away. That felt like a sentence that needed room. I think I just stopped believing I was allowed to want things, she went on. Wanting felt disrespectful, like I'd be erasing something. I leaned back against the counter. And now, she looked at her hands wrapped around the cup. Now it feels like not wanting is what's erasing me. That was the truth, spoken gently enough not to bruise. I'm not asking for promises, she said. Or certainty. I can't offer that either. I'm not asking, I said, and meant it. She exhaled, long and slow, like she'd been waiting to hear that exact phrasing. Her shoulders dropped. Just a little. We sat there. Close. Not touching. The kind of closeness that's louder without contact. After a while, she shifted. Her knee brushed mine. This time, neither of us corrected it. I don't know how to do this without feeling guilty, she said. I don't know how to do this without caring, I said. She smiled then. Really smiled. Soft. Sad. Relieved. That might have to be enough, she said. I nodded. When she stood to leave, she hesitated. Not at the door this time, right in front of me. Like she'd chosen the hard place instead of the safe one. Her hand lifted again. This time, it didn't hover. She rested it against my wrist. Barely there. Warm. Real. I didn't grab her. Didn't pull her closer. I just turned my hand so my palm met hers. She closed her eyes. For a moment, we stayed like that, two people choosing not to run, not to rush, not to pretend this was simpler than it was. When she finally pulled away, she pressed her forehead briefly against my shoulder. No words. Just wait. Just trust. Then she stepped back. I'll see you, she said. Not a question. Yeah, I said. She left, and this time the quiet didn't feel like loss. It felt like something settling into place, carefully, imperfectly, and staying. I'm telling this from a quieter place now. Not because everything wrapped itself up neatly, but because time finally slowed enough for me to see what actually happened between us. Not the moments people would point at and call romantic. The other ones. The pauses. The restraint. The choosing not to pretend. We didn't announce anything. There was no line we crossed that suddenly changed how the world looked at us. What changed was smaller and heavier. She still comes by the shop. Not every day. Not on a schedule. Sometimes she brings coffee. Sometimes she doesn't. Sometimes we talk about nothing important at all. Other times, we sit in the same silence that used to terrify me, and now just feels honest. She laughs more easily. That surprised me. Not louder. Just easier. Like she stopped bracing for the moment it disappears. And me. I don't rush anymore. I used to think wanting something meant reaching for it fast, before it vanished. I learned that wanting can also mean waiting. Standing still. Letting someone arrive in their own time, without pulling them toward you. There are still rules. We respect them. There are still days she pulls back, like she remembers something painful mid-step. I don't chase her when she does. That matters more than I expected. Sometimes she talks about him now, Daniel. Not like a ghost, but like a chapter she's finally allowed to reread without flinching. I listen. Not because I'm trying to replace anything, but because loving someone doesn't mean pretending their past didn't shape them. One evening, weeks ago, we sat in her car after closing. Engine off. Windows cracked. The air smelled like dust and warm pavement. She leaned her head against the seat and said, almost to herself, I forgot that connection could feel calm. I didn't answer. I just reached over and rested my hand against hers, between the seats. No pressure. No claim. She turned her hand palm up and let mine settle there. That's what this became. Not a dramatic love story. Not a warning. Not a fantasy. Just two people meeting each other honestly, late, imperfectly, with history still on their backs, and choosing not to walk away from what felt real simply because it was complicated. I don't know where it's going. I stopped needing to. What I know is this. Love didn't arrive like a lightning strike. It arrived like breathing, slow, necessary, and suddenly noticeable once it was no longer forced. And somehow that was enough. If this story made you feel something, let me know in the comments. Would you want more stories like this?